A small wonder indeed. Those were the visuals of a 6-year-old girl from Ahmedabad in India. Takshvi Vaghani set a new world record of the lowest limbo skating over 25 meters. The young talent achieved this remarkable feat by maintaining a height of just 16 centimeters above the ground. The previous record was held by another Indian girl, Manasvi Vishal, who had skated at a height of 16.5 centimeters. Hello and welcome to Inside South Asia with me, Esha Hanspal. Also on the show today, we will tell you why Maldives is trying to woo back Indian tourists. We will take a look at Nepal's rising pro-monarchy protests. We will also talk about the havoc that the floods have wreaked in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So let's begin. As the Maldives goes into key parliamentary elections on Sunday, there is a big focus on new dynamics in the island nation's relationship with India. On virtually all levels, things have nosedived, from diplomatic relations to military-level links to tourist traffic. Tour agencies in the Maldives are waking up to the potentially bigger problems ahead. Take a look.
Perhaps the worst hit face of crumbling Maldives-India ties. Indian tourism to the archipelago is definitely a defining casualty. The new damage control pitch from Maldivian travel agents then is roadshows to be held in India to showcase the Maldives as a tourist destination and woo back Indian tourists. They hope to get things going in coming weeks. Chinese tourist numbers have gone from number 3 in 2023 to number 1 in April this year, grabbing nearly 11% of the market share. Indian tourists, on the other hand, have gone from number 1 to number 6 over the same period, with just 5.6% of total numbers. Time was when the Maldives were the go-to destination for holidaying Indian celebrities and influencers. Many of them have now joined an online campaign which calls for a boycott of the Maldives and its tourist spots. This series of anti-India moves by the Maldives over the last 5 months have piled up now. Soon after coming to power, President Muizu came out with his India Out plan, setting a deadline for the small Indian army contingent in the Maldives to leave the island nation. Muizu's cabinet decided not to renew a 2019 MOU with India to carry out hydrological surveys. An online war of words set off by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's posts pitching for tourism in Lakshadweep Islands escalated into a diplomatic row, even as the Maldivian administration did some firefighting. Experts say President Muizu's adamance to turn away from India towards China could cost the Maldives big. The tourism roadshow planned by tour operators is a reflection of panic buttons pressed. All eyes now on how far the damage can be undone.
Hindu-majority nation Nepal takes pride in its secular democratic republic status. But there are continued waves of pro-monarchy protests in the country, each successive one bigger than the last. Parties raising the pitch for the return of monarchy point out to a deep rot in democratic institutions. Is something set to snap? Here's more.
One of a long line of protests against the government demanding restoration of the monarchy, a Hindu nation, and abolishment of the federal system. Those are the demands. The rallies have grown larger and more vociferous over time. The pro-right Rashtriya Prajatantra Party is spearheading the call for a return to traditional Nepali governance mechanisms.
We have come together here today against the republic system, against the federal system. Our main agenda is to establish Nepal as a Hindu country.
We have come forward to the public saying that the king is necessary to unite Nepalis together in a single thread.
It boils down to a large degree to what many sections see as misgovernance and maladministration by Nepal's political elite going back the last 15 years. Nepal has had all of 13 governments since the monarchy was abolished in 2008. Many Nepalis believe elected politicians are more interested in power play and patronage than addressing their problems.
Over 1,000 people gathered in the streets of the capital, Kathmandu, protesting, demanding for the restoration of monarchy and a Hindu state. This protest was led by a political party, Rashtriya Prajatantra Party, that enjoys 14 seats in the parliament. Dozens of pro-monarchy protesters were injured and a few have been detained by the police after a clash broke out with the police. The protesters barged into the restricted area, tearing down the barricades, prompting police to use tear gas and water cannons on the protesters. Many youngsters of this country believe that the republic system, the government, has failed to deliver good governance sought by the public. They have failed to bring stability to the country. The Rashtriya Prajatantra Party had also submitted 40-point demand to the Prime Minister earlier in February, which also included scrapping of the republic system and provincial level governance.
More and more people have been putting up pictures of the last king, Gyanendra, who was removed from power in 2008. And they want him back, saying that the monarchy will protect Nepal from pulls and pressure from India and China.
40 points demand letter that has been present to the Prime Minister of Nepal a month back, but our demand, those 40 points demand letter, it has not been acknowledged by the government. The province government, they have not been able to deliver to the system, so we are demanding of eradication of the province government as well.
Political flux and violence have not been new to Nepal. If it's pro-monarchy protests now, anti-monarchy anger had peaked in the early 2000s after the massacre of virtually the entire royal family by the crown prince. Gyanendra, who was crowned king, had to make way for a Maoist government, with royalty abolished in 2008. 15 years on, there's a call to return to pre-party rule. Though most political parties are in denial, is a turn to the monarchy the next stage in Nepal's political flux?
Moving on to Pakistan and Afghanistan now, the two climate-vulnerable countries. The past week, both the South Asian nations were battered by unprecedented rains that killed more than 100 people. Take a look at this report.
Another heartbreaking season of floods for Pakistan. The unusual downpour came down 2 months before the usual June monsoon for the country. 36 people died in the rains that left many injured and damaged property over the last week. At least 65 people lost their lives in the storm-related incidents and lightning, with the rain in April so far falling at nearly twice the historical average rate. In the northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, at least 8 people died when their houses collapsed due to the heavy rains. According to authorities, 3 men, a woman and 4 children died while 12 others were injured, and around 85 houses in the area were damaged.
It has been raining continuously for the last few days, and it has now turned into flooding. The rains have caused a lot of damage to the houses and the other property. The government should provide assistance and relief to the people because there has been loss of life and property.
In the province's capital Peshawar, rains unleashed havoc.
At 5 o'clock this morning, the water started coming inside our house. We took the children and escaped with them. The flood has damaged the walls of our home and all our things have been washed out with the water. I have no clothes to wear. We have now just a few kitchen items. All things have been washed away.
A total 1,300 houses have been damaged in Peshawar due to the flooding. Most of the people here have livestock and farming businesses. Now, this is all damaged because of the flood.
Let's take you now to the southwestern part of Balochistan province, where the story is no different. In this village in the Quetta district, people are rescuing a vehicle. Disconnected now from the rest of the region, all that they are left with is this damaged road.
At the moment, the situation in the village is such that there is no ration, no medicines, and we can't even go to the nearest hospital. The road has vanished. We can only help ourselves on foot.
Just less than 2 years back, the South Asian country was hit by catastrophic floods that submerged 1/3 of the country. Last March, Pakistan was hit by floods that worsened at the end of June due to incoming monsoon rains. The same situation is being feared this time as well. Pakistan's neighbour Afghanistan is also facing the nature's fury. In the villages of the Lalpur district of Nangarhar, people are sifting through the debris of their houses that were destroyed in the floods. Amid scenes of desperation, people tried to take out their cattle and belongings buried under the mud. Mohammad Abdullah Jan Sheikh, a Taliban spokesperson, has reportedly said at least 33 people died in the floods, while 27 more were injured. According to officials, over 600 houses were either damaged or destroyed, while around 200 livestock died. The flooding also damaged 800 hectares of agricultural land and over 85 kilometers of roads.
As you can see, the floodwater came from the alley. All these areas came under water and the walls collapsed. Since 2 days, the floodwater has been coming here frequently.
We ask the organization and foreign countries to help flood victims and needy people. They cannot rebuild themselves.
Both these countries are witnessing the stark reality of climate change. From unusual rains to extreme weather conditions, climate vulnerable countries are once again at risk. Pakistan is the 5th most vulnerable country to climate change, while Afghanistan is at number 4. The big question is, will the governments of the two nations do anything to avoid this recurring annual disaster in future?
Well, that's not the only news coming from Afghanistan. Athletes from the Taliban-controlled nation are preparing to participate in the Paris Olympics in July. But there is one Afghan Olympian who is calling on the International Olympic Committee to ban Afghanistan from the upcoming Summer Olympics. And here's why.
Friba Rezai, a judo athlete from Afghanistan, is the first woman ever to have represented her country at the Olympics. Rezai was just 18 years old when she stepped onto the mat at the 2004 Games in Athens and scripted history for Afghanistan. She was convinced her pioneering role would help advance women's rights. But 20 years later, she stares at a different painful reality. The Afghan Olympian, who now stays in Canada, has actually called on the International Olympic Committee to ban Afghanistan from the upcoming Paris Olympics. She cites the Taliban's abysmal human rights record.
And given the facts and tons of evidence about the Taliban, about their human rights and brutal treatment of women and children and youth, they are very, very dangerous. If the IOC allows them to enter the Olympics at the heart of Europe in Paris in the year of 2024, it's very dangerous for the people of Europe, and also the IOC will set a precedent that being a terrorist group is okay. You can violate, you can stone people to death, but you can still participate at the Olympics.
This picture, taken in 2022, tells the full story. An Afghan women's football team posed for a picture just about 2 years back in Kabul. Since 2021, the Taliban has closed girls' high schools, placed travel restrictions on women without male guardians, and blocked women from accessing parks and gyms. It's a world that Rezai couldn't think of in 2004, when Afghan women had just started making a mark in the sports arena.
The reason that I came, when I returned from the Athens Games, I stayed in Afghanistan, and I wanted to stay in Afghanistan, and I continued my training because I saw the changes, the important changes it was making. So I never dreamed in my wildest dream that all our achievements, gains, rights, freedom will be taken away from us and will be halted just overnight in August of 2021.
The IOC claims it has been in dialogue with Afghanistan's Olympic Committee and sports authorities to reverse the current restrictions on access to sport for women and young girls in Afghanistan. It does not see isolating the Afghan sporting community as a solution.
The IOC Executive Board did recognize the divergent views across the world relating to the suspension or not of the Afghan National Olympic Committee. But it also recognized the fact that the IOC doesn't believe that isolation of the Afghan sporting community at this time is the right approach.
The IOC suspended Afghanistan's National Olympic Committee in 1999, and the country was barred from the 2000 Sydney Games. The Paris Games have once again put the focus back on Afghan women's rights. Will these women get a fair chance to compete?
The Pak Strait between India and Sri Lanka has long made news as the narrow dividing marine border between the two countries. Fishing rights and island ownership issues like Kachathivu have raised a storm. Here's an effort, though, at focusing on just how close the relationship really is, with a canoe sprint across the narrowest point. Take a look.
Lined up at the starting point on the shores of Mannar Island. Participants of the Canoe Sprint 2024 from Talai Mannar in Sri Lanka to Dhanushkodi in India were drawn from both countries. This mere 24-kilometer marine stretch marks the point where Sri Lanka ends and India begins. The canoe race reflects the age-old cultural bond between the two countries.
We are sitting on historical grounds. This is the land where the East and West was brought together, and so much of connectivity between our neighbors, the Indian subcontinent, and also this is the point, a unique geographical feature connects between two islands, two countries, India and Sri Lanka.
Dhanushkodi to Talai Mannar also marks the mythical crossing point of Hindu deity Ram from India to Lanka in the Ramayana epic thousands of years ago. The Ram Setu, now called Adam's Bridge, is a chain of natural limestone shoals. Geological findings show the bridge once formed a land connection between India and Sri Lanka. At the finish line or coastline in Dhanushkodi, there's a sense of elation at having completed the connect. The event is likely to become an annual one.
I think this is really important because it builds a relationship that we can last, and we'll be continuing this every year, and we can continue building a strong bond with them and have future events such as this.
The India-Sri Lanka Canoe Sprint Event 2024, co-hosted by kayaking associations on both sides, marks another people-to-people confidence builder, underscoring the strong bridge winning over often rough sea winds.
With that, it's a wrap on today's edition of Inside South Asia. But before we go, we leave you with visuals from Ayodhya in India. The holy town was decked up once again, and this time for Ram Navami celebrations on Wednesday. Take a look. This is Esha signing off. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Defiant Netanyahu ignores West's restraint call. Yet again cornered, Bibi says Israel will make its own decisions. Israel ignores only sanctions but no retaliation plea. Iranian president warns of a massive response. Can Netanyahu get the attack calculation right? West Asia on the edge.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Hundreds rally in Niger capital Niamey for US departure and Russia support as Russian instructors arrive to train Niger forces in the use of new military hardware. Sudan still in turmoil 365 days later as the warring paramilitary and army continue to trade barbs and wreak havoc across the nation. And in Uganda, young wrestlers dream of one day emulating their heroes and joining wild wrestling entertainment. Watch Wild of Africa at these times on WION. Wild is One. This week on the West Asia Post, the decades-long Iran-Israel shadow war is out in the open. After the unprecedented aerial strike by Iran, all eyes are on how Israel will respond and what sanctions will its allies impose on Tehran. On another war front in the West Bank, cross-border exchanges are increasing between Israel and Hezbollah. Also on the show, there is flooding in the desert city of Dubai. All this and more. Catch the West Asia Post only on WION. Wild is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.